show our appreciation for the servicemen and women who are serving around the world. Thank you. We're starting tonight with Treasurer Georgia Kalivas, who's going to discuss our bond sale.
This past Wednesday, October 1st, the town of Medfield, along with its financial advisor, First Southwest, accepted 10 competitive bids from bond underwriters for a $7.2 million general obligation municipal purpose bond purchase. This 20-year issue includes the $5,840,000 Medfield State Hospital water tower and water mains, and it also includes the $1,360,000 Redgate farmland acquisition. The bid was awarded to UBS Financial Services Incorporated, and it was with the lowest interest cost of 2.57%. The bond proceeds will be deposited into the town's general fund on October 16th, amounting to $7,419,668, which represents the $7.2 million par and the $219,668 in the bond premium, which will be used by the town to pay the borrowing cost associated with this purchase. So I'm here this evening to finalize the bidding process by asking you to vote and to sign the appropriate bonding documents. So I am asking you to vote the following, and it's a rather lengthy vote: that the sale of 7.2 million general obligation municipal purpose bonds of the town of Medfield, dated October 16, 2014, be awarded to UBS Financial Services Incorporated at the price of $7,419,668 is hereby approved and confirmed, and that the bonds shall be payable on October 15th over the next 20 years. Further vote that in connection with the marketing and the sale of the bonds, the preparation and the distribution of a notice of sale and the preliminary official statement dated September 24th was approved by the town treasurer, ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted by the town. Further vote that the towns shall be subject to redemption at the option of the town as set forth in the official statement. Further vote that the treasurer and the selectmen be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver any continuing disclosure documents for the benefit of all bondholders. And further vote that each member of the selectmen, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions. So tonight, you as the power of attorney, of authority for the town of Medfield, are signing the following: a certification of the vote that we just took, the signature, the no litigation, and the official statement certificate for the town of Medfield, a certificate for continuing disclosure, which means that the town must provide on a timely basis audited financial reports and an audited report to all federal and state agencies, including bondholders. And you also signed the actual bonds amounting to $7.2 million. I'd also would like to add that Moody's Investors Services, the municipal bond creating agency that the town uses, has reaffirmed the town's bond rating to a AA1. The AA1 rating means that our bonds are regarded very highly on the market, and that the rating reflects a sound financial position that includes planned use of reserves, a stable residential tax base with strong wealth levels, and a modest debt and pension liability. And just to throw some big numbers at you, on June 30th of 2014, the town's outstanding principal and interest was approximately $46 million. If you add this bond purchase and principal and interest of $9 million, the town's outstanding principal and interest is around $55 million. I need a vote for that.
I would first of all entertain a motion that tracks the wording of the motion that the treasurer has read.
I'm not going to reread that. I'll just say so moved.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion then? All those in favor then?
Aye.
Yes.
Excellent. Very good, excellent.
Thank you.
Could
Thank
I
you.
ask some questions about the materials that you just read to us, or provided to us? I don't understand why they structure the bond so that we end up getting a premium rather than just paying a lower interest rate.
The town obviously asks for a little bit of a premium.
Oh, we asked for
Because the
that.
premium
Okay.
allows us to pay the borrowing costs.
Okay.
It obviously costs money to
So
borrow.
that's structured into the way that we present it to the market.
That is correct.
Okay. Then the other thing that I was curious about is that we feel like have a lot of debt, especially for the retiree health insurance, the OPEB, thank you. And yet they say that we have modest amounts of debt. So do they just have a different attitude towards our OPEB, or?
I don't think that OPEB is not debt to them.
Oh, it's not on
Their
our
debt
balance?
is our principal and interest. I think that's what they're referring to.
But if you think ours is bad, you
Right.
should see the cities. I
Right,
mean, ours pales by comparison.
right, but we have to pay ours, we don't have to pay the cities, so.
Yeah.
Ours is what bothers me. Yeah,
And I know you had asked me a question
Oh,
concerning
yes.
the state qualified bond program. The state qualified bond program is usually used by municipalities who don't have a favorable bond rating.
so that the costs of that just aren't advantageous.
Exactly, and
Okay.
our bond rating is extremely favorable. Usually, when municipalities borrow through the state qualified bond program, they have enough state aid so that the treasurer's office can intercept the state aid to pay for the debt payments. We obviously don't qualify for either one of those, and you do have to qualify for the program.
And so do the people that use that end up with a higher interest rate as well?
That's
Yes.
what Medway did when they were going through their financial difficulties. And basically, they were then under the oversight of a state agency down at DOR, and they were required to set up stabilization funds in addition to what they already had, and the money was just diverted right into those funds from cherry sheet funds. So, as a matter of fact, Medway has just now come out from underneath that after almost 10 years, I guess.
When I saw that, and it came out in
It was in a city and town bulletin.
in a bulletin from the DOR Division of Local Services, I guess it's called. But it struck me that maybe that all the cities and towns could get a lower interest rate somehow if the state stood behind us or something, or I don't know, maybe our rates are better
I
than the
know there
state's.
are only 35 communities that are using that state qualified bond
So it's not working.
program. When I asked our financial advisor, they said that if we did choose to apply, we wouldn't be accepted into the program because our
And any-
bond is so high, our bond rating is so high. But normally, your bond rating would go down a step, so.
interest rate's
Again,
gonna go
it's
up.
really, it wouldn't be beneficial to us because
okay.
with our high bond rating, we can get a better rate of interest.
Well, I mean, it strikes me that if the state would lend their credit to cities and towns that way, then.
I
perhaps we could,
I believe our bond rating's higher than the state's.
So that we're getting a better rate than they
Yeah,
are
it
then.
is.
Yeah, oh, well, it depends. You know, it depends on the day of the week you borrow. If we had borrowed the day before,
It would have been
would
much
probably been
higher.
higher. If we had borrowed the day after, it probably would have been higher. We just hit a slump in the market. The market dropped 200 points that day.
Oh, isn't that great?
Yeah, unless you're a bond stockholder, I guess.
Yeah, but we were buying, or we were selling bonds, so it's good for us.
But it just depends on who's buying the bonds. You know, like you asked, why do they give premiums? A lot of these, they will remarket the bonds. They don't hold them. Some cases they do. The banks will keep them in their own portfolio. In a lot of cases, particularly where they're brokers, they resell the bonds. And they have computer programs to figure out what's the best way to market them. So I bet you if you looked at the 10 bids, everyone would be different in the way they calculated the premium and the rates.
And there was
because-
only 20 basis points between the highest and the lowest, so.
Yeah.
Medfield sells
Oh.
very attractive bonds. We are a very highly regarded community on the bond market.
And not one of the bidders was from New England.
No,
There were 3 from New York, 1 from Philadelphia, 1 from Chicago, 2 from Memphis, 1 from Milwaukee.
So the old saw about rich people was that they were clipping the coupons on the bonds, but I guess the bonds don't have coupons anymore. I didn't see any on these.
No, but I do remember years ago, and I'll date myself, that there were coupons when you had to pay. I mean, I didn't do it.
People sent you coupons and you had to pay?
No, the actual town bonds had coupons, so when you paid
Yes.
your principal and your interest, you actually had to cut the coupon off the bond, so it is much different.
And they used to send the coupons to us, and
Yes, yeah.
Sis Randolph used to reconcile them all the time.
It got discouraging seeing how many coupons that were there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm all set.
Thank you so much,
Next
Georgia.
time. Thank
Nice
you.
job on
Nice
floating
job,
the bonds
Georgia.
for the town.
Thank you.
Next, we have Council on Aging, review respite care program and rental policy. Roberta, thanks for coming.
I want to thank my board for being here, Lou Fellini, Neil DeRoss, Gwen Santori, and Ginny White, and Mike Clancy couldn't make it this evening. The respite program, it's been in operation since March of 2012 with funding from the Metro West Health Foundation of over $80,600. So we've done really well with our funding for the program. I have 2 staff members that are paid through that grant, presently 1. And actually, we have grown to capacity. When we first started, March of 2012, we had 1 client that was there for a half day. So a half day is considered 1 slot. And my goal was, through the foundation, was to meet 21 slots. And we did that after about a year and a few months. I had always wanted to shoot for 32 slots, and we are at 40 slots today. And we are at our maximum capacity. We have a wait list now. We have a few clients on that, and wait list, of course, will be Medfield residents get priority when there's an opening. So it's doing really well. Financially, to tell you how well, the invoices that we billed for the month of September was for $4,365. So that's a good amount of money, and the staff costs was $28.38. It's going to be self-sustaining, which is great. So we presently have 8 Medfield residents and 6 out-of-town clients. And as you know, the program provides caregiver relief and a stimulating environment for the participants. So we have that revolving account for our respite program. And part of the wording in it at town meeting that it's voted on, that we can accumulate up to $50,000 in that account. And I'm happy to say that we're presently over $40,000. So that's pretty good. So we've done really well.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
But with that said, Metro West Health Foundation, the funding ends May 31st, so that staff will be paid completely out of that revolving account.
Is the 2,800 the cost with or without the Metro West?
That would be the cost with the 2 staff people, but presently I only pay 1 staff person out of that revolving account.
Oh, okay, so that even without the grant money, you're still
Right,
making money.
right.
Excellent.
Yes. It's doing really well. It's a great program, great staff.
That
Any
is such
questions on that?
Well, it's just such a great thing that you've created for this town, so thank you so much. I know
Thank
that
you.
was something that you wanted to do for a long time.
Long time.
And implemented it, and it's just turned out to be such a boon for all these people that are needing the service, and so
Right.
it's a nice thing to have in town. Congratulations.
Thank you. One of the questions that was in the email from Evelyn was the 5-year plan, for this Council on Aging. Maybe sooner than 5 years, because there is such a need in the community for this kind of program would be, and we are, like I said, at maximum. Eventually, we will outgrow our space, or we have outgrown our space, and eventually if we keep doing well with our revenue, we may be able to put an addition on the building for that program. Because the population is only aging, so that means that this service is going to be needed even more as people continue to age.
I just was a little bit confused. We have 40 clients right now? We're at
No, we have 14 clients,
14 clients.
14. But each,
And 8 of those you said were from Medfield,
8 are
correct?
from Medfield. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is so easy for me because I can see it, I'm more visual. But the morning is a slot, the afternoon is a slot on Tuesday, same thing on Thursday.
Yeah.
So right now we have 40 slots. That means we have 10 people in the morning on Tuesdays, 10 people in the afternoon on Tuesdays, and 9 on Thursday mornings, and actually 11 on Thursday afternoons.
So those 14 people are filling the 40
Yep.
slots throughout the day?
Some people come full days, some people come half days, some people come,
And those 14 pretty much you're capped, you're full.
Oh, yeah, we can't take any more,
Okay.
yeah.
And it's 2 days, so Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Tuesdays and
is when you run
Thursdays.
that, Okay.
Yeah.
And given how successful it is,
Mm-hmm.
have you been thinking about more than 2 days a week?
Well, sure, but space is a problem because the 2 days that we use, those rooms are free. And that's how we started it back in 2012.
Yep,
So
yep.
there are days at the building that every room is taken and you
Rooms
just,
aren't
so
available the other
rooms are
days.
not available.
Okay.
Yep.
So, board, any comments?
Looking for 4,000 square feet, whatever we can get.
There you go.
I'd even do a portable classroom. Rentals, so I am happy to say that the board has been working hard during the summer, and we finally, I guess we have a final draft we put together on the October 1st, so I can hand those out. Yeah, the changes in the pricing we've made to accommodate our increase in utilities, our electric bill, as everyone's heard in the media, it's just really going up. We've also added a one-time setup fee for large hall events because on those Friday afternoons when we set up the hall, we set it up because we know how to, open and close the tables, we are careful of our floors and so forth and so on. So we have a one-time fee for hall setup because actually when we set up the halls, we take away from our COA time. So we have a limit of 2 large hall rentals per month.
Okay, yeah.
We are very active, as you are aware, and so we often have our own big functions monthly or sometimes a couple times a month, so that adds a lot of extra activity.
Yeah.
And then another big thing is no pre and post storage of people's supplies before and after an event.
It's gonna be in and out, yep.
In and out, yeah.
Yep.
How many events did you say per month,
2 large hall events.
And
But-
the reason it could not be more would be because your expenses that go with that and the effort and time, and
Correct.
are these fees enough so that you're making revenue, you're breaking even, you're,
We raised the large hall rental from $80 an hour to $125 an hour. I work closely with the Sharon Council on Aging, who has a hall about the same size as ours. I don't know how anyone would rent there. I mean, their 6-hour event is $2,400 for their hall. And so our little $80 an hour rate just didn't seem like it was covering anything. I mean, actually, I felt like it was community service.
So you folks will be setting up and taking everything down, right? They provide you the plan.
Yep.
And then so that you've got control over things, so that the tables don't get broken and all that other stuff and the
Right,
chairs
so
and things like
we
that, yeah.
set up the hall, but we request that the renter assist with,
Yeah.
stacking the chairs, because there's a building person there
Yeah.
that I'm paying
Yeah,
to monitor, the activity and all, so they will work together with that person to
Okay.
fold up the chairs.
okay,
I do have the maintenance company that comes in twice a week on Wednesdays and on the weekend, so it usually covers like the real heavy cleaning, but not rug cleaning, like if a
Right.
carpet got soiled, not that, that's a special cleaning which would come out of the security deposit.
yep.
How does that work if, like, the school department wanted to use it? I mean, they're sort of nonprofit, but they're also a town board. Are they-
Yes, so we had a discussion about town boards, and we didn't put it on our policies, but that town boards, town committees, if they wanted meeting space, they could use the room, as long as somebody would be responsible for the security of the building and that sort of thing. There'd be no charge for a town department committee to use the building. But in terms of the fundraisers, the nonprofit who are fundraising, rather than going to the Legion, they come here, that type of thing, that would have to be, that's a rental,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's, if they're a nonprofit, that's half price,
only for the meeting rooms.
only for the meeting rooms, oh, okay.
Only for the meeting room. So we have, monthly, and last year soccer came in once a month, and so they just come in, they use a room, there's no setup, we don't worry about anything, there's no, extra trash going into the dumpster and all of that. So they just come in, they use the room, and there's a small fee associated with that, because I have somebody there to open the building and close the building.
Any further questions?
No, this is really good. This is really,
Yeah, I
really
think,
clear. It's-
I
you
think
guys did a
we,
great
we as a
job.
group, I think we worked really hard all, at our monthly meetings to
Yeah,
kind of
kinda.
fine tune the policies. And
Mm-hmm.
so now it's just a matter of, me and mostly me and the staff, like adhering to those policies and,
Yeah.
and just, deferring to the board for questions and
Good.
that sort of thing.
Excellent.
Is there a way we can put, I don't know, we must have a space on the website or something so people will know clear, or they just would?
I will put it on our website.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
As soon as, I know I want Mark, you to go through them, in case you have a couple of points that need clarification before I actually post them and start, not too much, though.
I definitely have some issues. This is the first time I've seen it tonight.
I know, that was intentional. I'm so sorry, but it's true. All right, so can we get back to the 5-year plan?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. So one of the things last year with capital budget, we requested funding for a sound system, which we're in the process. We've narrowed it down to 3 companies, so that's
Nice.
pending. One of the things we talked about in the past is getting streetlights on Ice House Road, really important. And getting, we have that one entrance into the parking lot.
Too.
We need an in and we need an out.
Yeah, you really do.
We really do, because if somebody was parking on that very last spot, very easy to get clipped. So,
And the other thing is during voting and stuff, it's a
oh,
horror
it's
show.
awful.
And if you had the second outing, you could just go in and go out and
Yes.
relieve most of the issues.
And for our vehicles during voting, it's very tough. They're bigger, making the turn, and you have all the people on the side with their signs and waving. It's just be easier. We also have, from the very beginning, our front and side doors have never closed properly. There's still, there's a big gap. So one of the things we want to do in the future is potentially replace those doors, because they've never have shut properly. It's like 2018, but, whenever. Roof over our patio,
Yep.
so that we have some shade, some
Yeah.
sun protection.
Yep.
And then last would be, with the electric bills going up so much, we have a great location for solar panels on our roof.
Yeah.
So that would be another thing for the future.
That'd be very good.
But before that, due to our increasing population, which is definitely increasing, and I'll tell you that to date, January 1st to date, we've had 856 people, different people coming into the building for over 12,629 visits into the center since January 1st. Our total population, that 856, last year on this day, we had a total 769, and the year before that, we had 683.
Wow.
So we're growing. Due to the increase, all those other little things I said about future, of course, with our increasing activity, participation, our respite program that's bulging, additional space is probably one of the first things that we need, along with everything else.
I'd like to see, as we develop lot number 3, whatever's going to happen there, as part of the arrangements of, and I don't know how you would word this, but as part of the arrangements of that they put streetlights in there. I don't know if that's possible to do, but you definitely, if you're going to get increased usage there, I think you definitely need streetlights.
Sure, you can always put that in as a requirement of your lease, so.
Generally, your hours are not in the darkness, but the hall is rented
Stay-
oftentimes, correct?
Oftentimes, oh yes, and we stay open until 7 or later on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's gonna be dark.
Yeah, but they're already the foundations of the footings for the streetlights all throughout the street, and the electricity, I'm sure, is pulled in there, probably. They're pulled, right? Yeah.
One other thing to keep in mind in that area is that circle that is used for the helicopter landings
Yep.
for med flights. So whatever we do, and I was thinking of that in terms of the second driveway, we have to make sure, and lighting, that
Yes.
it doesn't interfere with the
That's a good point, yeah.
use of that, because that's turned out to be a very handy
Yeah.
location.
The
They
helicopters,
like
yeah.
landing there, and for that end of town, it works out great, so. Yeah, you could put that in as a condition of lighting.
Yeah.
Of course,
Whatever goes in there clearly is going to benefit as well.
Yes, yeah.
Although Roberta's thinking about putting stuff there too, so you might want to just be careful about imposing council on aging requirements for things.
No, I'd do it whatever's lot 3, if it's, private. And did you find it worked out as far as the mowing and the lawn? Did that work out okay this summer, the lawn being mowed?
Well, I hired Joe Brienzi. I got his name from Chief Kingsbury, and he's been coming and mowing the lawn, and he's been
Under your budget?
Yes,
Not
yep,
the town doesn't do that?
No.
no.
We plow and, maintain, do a lot of,
We
Work
just
down
hired
there,
the
but we
manpower
don't
to mow their lawn?
yeah, I think Park and Rec that does a lot of those areas already has 16 areas that they take care of with one guy, and maybe one or two summer help, so it does get to be tight for them, so. I think Highway said they could do it if you wanted it done. This was a particularly bad summer for them, given they were trying to finish up the town garage, but I think probably going forward, they could include that in some of their field work.
That might be something under the highway to save them on their budget?
Yeah, I'll talk to Ken about that, yeah.
Good, that's a good idea. It makes sense if we have the equipment and the town employees to
Well,
do it
it's a
for the
town
Council on
facility.
Aging.
It won't, remember, the highway department is roadway mowing, it's not fine field maintenance like you would get with Park and Rec.
Yeah, well, it'd make more sense actually to have Park and Rec do it, but, so.
Well, I think if you're gonna have Park and Rec do it, you gotta get more help. They're, as I said, they've already got 16 areas they're trying to take care of with one guy most of the
Mow
year.
whole town, yeah, so it
Yes,
gets a little
yeah.
difficult after a while.
The truth is, we don't have really grass, crabgrass, and it's,
Yeah.
it dries out pretty quick, and we had the bad grubs, and they destroyed whatever grass we had. Only back behind the patio, it's actually very nice. When we have our cookouts in the summer, it's nice and green, and the hostas come up, and it's very
They
pretty.
really need the whole thing redone. They need to bring loam in and reseeding it and fertilizing it, so get it up, yeah.
If you're gonna reseed and do all that, you need some water.
Ecosystem, yeah.
That was out the sand that was up there, that was gravel and sand, and that's a tough
Yeah,
area to grow without proper soil.
yeah, you need about 4 or 5 inches of loam to really get
Maybe
good soil.
the DPW has all that compost operation. They must have some really nice soils behind the transfer.
They do,
station.
they mix it with sand and manure, so
Yeah,
they
maybe
can
next
make
summer they
good
could
soil, yeah.
put down some new,
But
material
again,
for you.
that really isn't their line of work. They could do it, but if you want it done to the standards, say that Park and Rec does their fields, then you really need to get someone in that knows what they're doing.
Well, they did the fields at McCarthy Park, and they certainly did a nice job on those.
Well, yeah, they did that
Up to
years
the
ago,
juniors
but
out there for
but-
weeks.
But since you've had Park and Rec take it over, they slice seed and they fertilize and they
Yeah.
water, so, it's a world of difference what you see up at McCarthy Park now from what it used to be.
Well, and McCarthy Park's better than the lawn in front of the town hall, too.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
'Cause, we don't slice seed that, and you probably don't
No.
have any irrigation on that, do you?
No, and it's hard for us to put irrigation when we're telling everybody they're under a water ban.
Yeah, then we start.
We don't want to have green lawn and then have everybody, being told to shut off their sprinklers, and we've got them running, so.
Maybe that's something between now and the summer we can work out with
Yep, that'd be great.
highway department, so that you're not draining onto your budget, that the money more can go to the different programs that are gonna serve the
Yeah.
seniors. That just makes more sense.
The other thing I think we all have to be careful of this year is, you've heard in the news about electricity prices skyrocketing this year, 37%. Would you say you're already spending $2,000 a month on electricity?
Yeah,
so-
$2,000 every month for electricity, and I only budgeted 12,000, so I know I'm gonna be,
Yeah.
That's where, under your 5-year plan, I was glad to see the emphasis with solar, because I think that's the only answer down the road.
well, we get great sunlight there, for
Yeah,
sure.
You're wide open.
The only issue for me is I would take out the dormers, I think, and put
Well,
the.
the dormers don't do anything, they're
They're
just for
just
looks.
decorative, I know, and so if you put the solar right across that front, you have a great exposure for solar. You guys should talk to the Energy Committee about that. I'm sure they'd love to work with you to try to figure, well, they're still working with a consultant about other sites in town, but I would think that they would love to help you.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks very much,
Thank you
Roberta.
very, very much. And thanks also to the Council of Aging for all your work that you guys do. Thank you.
Anybody from the Council on Aging? Mike is asking if you want to say anything? Please.
I'm just wondering, is there any chance for an addition in 5 years or so, or 3 years? Can we really think about it and do whatever we can? Because it's a multi-purpose building. It's really very needed, and we do a lot of things there for the community.
Yeah. I mean, I think the issue is one for town meeting. Anything of that sort has to get voted by town meeting. I think your case for town meeting is in the numbers that Roberta just presented. Over the course of the last 3 years, the usage, the number of people has gone from 683 to 769 to 856. I mean, it's going up 100 people a year in terms of usage through this date. So the usage is going up, the respite program needs more space, it's making money.
More programs that we would love to,
And if you have more programs that you'd like to be
Yeah.
offering, then,
for the younger 60s, you know? Really, seriously, people that are still working at night, we can have programs for them, whatever. It would be great to have bigger space,
Yeah.
because we are running out of space.
Well, the
Thank you.
data too, every year is more and more of the so-called baby boomers retiring.
Right,
The
right.
population just increasing in the years to come.
Right. Thank you.
so years ago, Roberta and I talked about trying to have a more robust continuing education program in town. I saw it as a way of getting the seniors to give programs, to provide intellectual stimulation for people in town who could come. For me, I'd seen what had happened at LaSalle Village, which I'd been involved with, where the people who were in their 80s wanted to give the courses in addition to taking them, and that the intellectual stimulation was just a huge reason that people wanted to move there and live there, because it was just, it was fascinating to hear about music and birds and whatever else was what the lectures were about. And so I think that if we did that type of more robust continuing education in town directed at intellectual stimulation, I would hope that would help to keep the seniors in town. My goal would be to have the seniors have so many social contacts and interesting contacts in town that even though it's cheaper to live in Norfolk or Rentham or wherever, that they would stay in town because their social contacts are here. So I think that makes sense for us to spend money on that type of thing even.
I think the key will be also to get some housing, over 55 housing, so that people can actually stay in town. In the long run, that's.
We just added a Spanish-speaking program, thanks, and it's very popular. So
Yeah.
these things, we could really do
Yeah,
a lot.
take
And I
it,
think
yeah.
it stimulates the mind, keeps you young.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Jean Minio, Cultural Council, discuss proposed art project at the State Hospital. We're going to have to stop calling it the State Hospital since we're going to buy it. We'll have to call it the Medfield Hospital or something from now on, or once we have a closing.
Come up with a better name.
We have to come, we should come up.
Maybe we need a name for that,
That's
besides it's
something for
really
the
isn't a
Cultural
hospital
Council to
anymore
do, is to have
either.
a naming contest.
Harding Estates.
You already named a park, you need to name a hospital.
My term is up in 2 weeks. So I wanted to just talk about a proposal for a temporary project up on the, for lack of a better description, the front lawn area of the State Hospital property that abuts Hospital Road. Project would be called Thistle, and we'd propose to have it up from May through October of next year, 2015. And we'd be working with an artist. Her name's Catherine Evans. She's in Maynard, so she's not too far. Project that she's done before, but not to the scale. So we were proposing 24 installations. That number came from the number of trees that line Hospital Road. Originally, we were thinking about all of them, but I think in further conversation with Catherine, we would do some on the front, but we would put more within the grassy area itself, because there's lots of different groves and some other really interesting lines of trees within the property. So the idea is to have people think about coming onto the property. I've had several conversations with friends who actually don't think they're allowed on the property. So there's still a big misperception about it, and we're about to own it. So this is a way to get people thinking about it differently. It's low impact, there's no harm to the trees. It's basically a landscaper's kind of a mesh cloth that would wrap the tree, and they're pre-made with these plastic ties that are tied to that cloth, and then the cloth is wrapped around the tree and tied to itself. So nothing is attached to the tree, or there's no nails and things like that. We wanted to put a twist on this project with the artist, and she's interested in trying this as more of an engagement project. So we would actually invite 24 groups or families or organizations to participate by sort of adopting one of these thistles and making it themselves.
Cool.
Zulu Gallery has offered us the space to do a workshop with that, so you'd have instruction from the artist, they could take it home. We'd have a second follow-up session, make sure people are comfortable with it and getting it done, and then we'd have an installation where people could actually find the one they made and feel a sense of ownership of it and of the project itself.
It's a great idea. It's interesting that originally she started this because of the longhorn beetle blight and
Right.
stuff like that.
Right.
And then your main goal, if I'm reading this correctly, is to draw attention to the open space and begin to think of the area more than just the institution.
Right, think about it in a different way.
Well, and then it's ours, it's the town's space.
Right.
Now.
Right,
We
and
get
so
more
there's
and more
that sense
people.
of ownership in making it, and so that translates to the space that it occupies for a short period of time.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
After we vote, just make sure we send a copy of this to Steve Nolan, so the committee gets this.
I think
Sure.
Christine already did, but I'd be happy to connect with him too.
Ken, great.
Sure. And Mike, it doesn't need any insurance other than what the town already does. It's always the question that
You know, one
comes
thing.
up on these projects.
Frequently, the Girl Scouts are looking for a Gold Star project.
Uh-huh.
That might be a group that you
Sure.
would want to contact, because they
Sure.
have a lot of families that have scouts in
Do
them.
that
and that
together.
might be a good
Yeah.
way, yeah.
Yeah.
And I did see, I think the county engineers in town today, they were working down at Park Street, so
Yeah.
you may be getting close on your surveying for
14th,
over here.
it's
because
in my book.
I still see we're past the 5th, but I still see people playing the piano.
I know, I'm working on it. I had a couple
Well,
of
as long as-
no-shows on the
as-
pickup, but we'll
As long
get
as
there.
somebody's using it,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Thank you. I've heard some great stories of people just coming up onto playing and performing and stopping and spending some time with it, so I think it
And I love to
accomplished
see,
what we'd hoped.
just seeing the people sitting at your Adirondack chairs, they're being used.
That's great.
Yeah.
Third one is under repair at my house, but it'll return too.
I move then that we officially accept the Thistle, the temporary art project at the former Medfield State Hospital as outlined on the sheet that Jean has given us.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Very nice.
Thank you.
very much, Jean, for
Keep you
doing
posted.
this.
Thank you for
Great,
being so
fun stuff.
creative with all these ideas.
So what I've been battling in my yard are the winter moths, Jean, and I keep wondering whether, and I see bands around trees like this, and I'm wondering if maybe somehow these could be used to keep the winter moths off the
Yes.
trees as well.
We just need to make sure thistle isn't an invasive species.
Vote to sign November 4 Election Day warrant.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Discuss Skype meeting attendance.
Mr. Chairman, I actually brought this up. Gabby Harrison, who is a member of the Board of Health, had a serious knee operation. She's going to be held up for quite some time. And she wanted to know, she wanted to be at the meeting. She can't physically leave her house yet, and wanted to be able to Skype from there. Is that possible? And if, what do we need to do to make it possible if it is?
I have given you the Attorney General's regulations, brought a bunch of sets over this morning. 940 CMR 29.
Here we go, here we go.
The last 2 pages are remote participation. You've got to basically adopt a policy that's town-wide, and then there are the minimum requirements spelled out here. So you're not going to be able to Skype it, you can do audio.
Telephone.
Actually, yeah, it's like a little box thing. We've done it in Franklin. There's limited reasons for it, although personal, this is one of them.
Is it up to each board whether they wish, if, once the selectmen adopt it?
Basically, as the executive body would vote it, we can have a stricter policy than the Attorney General's, but these are the minimum requirements here.
I wonder if it might be good to contact the other boards to see what their interest is in having something like that. It could be an expense for them, and it could be, I don't know whether they'd use it or not. Do you find in Franklin they use it very much?
We have one counselor who travels worldwide frequently, so we have used it. It's very unwieldy. Primarily, the council more procedural than you folks are, but every vote has to be a roll call vote, so that's been a major nuisance. But we're working with more legislation than you are, because the council is basically a legislative body, even though they're regulatory.
Have you seen a negative side to it?
As it works, it's unwieldy. And then the other aspects are, which are right here in the regulations, you still have to have a physical quorum present. It doesn't make up for the lack of a quorum.
Right.
At a minimum, the audio has to be heard by everybody in the room. If you were to use a visual component, everybody has to be able to see the participant.
Right.
Which is why you can't simply do a Skype type of setup. You'd have to do something more complicated than that.
So you'd have to get some kind of a monitor, you'd have to have a monitor
Something
for everyone
that
to
allows
see
everybody in the room to see.
the other person?
Right.
If you felt you needed to go there, otherwise the
Right.
phone would do this, the
Yeah, the
speakerphone.
audio speaker.
Phone would
hookup.
suffice.
We have a unit that the town purchased, it's in the council chambers in Franklin, and when we've had occasion to use it, the person calls in at the appropriate time, and then they're on the phone through the whole meeting.
So can you eliminate the visual part and just do the audio
Oh,
part?
absolutely. It's not a limit, it's the other way around. That would be stepping up to do the visual. The audio is the minimum.
So if someone was Skyping, then you would have to have the visual for everyone to see.
Right.
But that should be fairly easy to do. I mean, if you had the notebook computer at the front of the room facing everybody at the meeting, then everybody would see it.
I suppose there's a way to do it, but I think they contemplate some kind of a screen projection type of thing if you're gonna do visual.
Oh, no?
But, I mean, if you could set it up in such a way that everybody can see, but obviously, if you've got a participant on a board that's facing out, that's fine, the audience can see, but now the other board members can't. So it's
Yeah, well, I mean, here, if you put the
Yeah.
laptop in the corner down there, everybody could see it in the room, so. I think it makes a lot of sense to have this type of
Well,
flexibility.
I'm just, in Gabby's point, I mean, she wants to be there because her
Yeah.
niece, she can't, she's right up at home.
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
just
I've
trying
been
to
at
think if there's a
plenty-
negative.
I've been at plenty of meetings at the boards, the nonprofits that I've been on a board member on, where people have been on a telephone hookup, and it works fine.
And I didn't get a chance to read this yet, but are there certain reasons why you can miss a meeting?
They're listed at the bottom of the first.
Okay, there it is, okay, disabilities and, so, I mean, it's not gonna be something that, well, I'm too tired, I wanna stay at home and have the
That's
ball
not-
game
that's
on.
not- And also, they have to notify the chair in advance of the meeting. That's under 7A on the last page. Any member of the public body who wishes to participate remotely shall, as soon as reasonably possible prior to a meeting, notify the chair,
Yep.
blah, blah. Then the chair has to announce at the start of the meeting, and as I said, all votes have to be by roll call. You can actually participate in executive session if you represent that there's nobody else on your end of the phone or the communication. You're supposed to get the person documents to the extent you can in advance of the meeting.
I just think it's a good thing, one, we're trying to encourage people to belong to boards, and we should make it easier. I'm just trying to see if there's a negative side to this. Mike, you mentioned an expense, do you envision?
Well, you'd
Expense would be-
have to have something portable. We have meetings all over town, you know, you've, from the Council on Aging to the schools to the, now the town garage, the library. So you have to have something that you could, depending on the demand for it, that would be portable, that could be moved to a different location.
All you need is a speakerphone. I mean, most phones would serve the function today. Most any phone that has a speaker on it, and so.
Well, I think the only problem would be the
Depends.
boards that are involved with public hearings, land use, for instance, where visual materials are involved. Now, it's one thing if you get them in advance, but that's not typically the way those meetings go. Applicants and their engineers and all come in with plans and
That's a
other
good point.
types of things, so you're gonna have to address that. So my suggestion would be to advise the other boards and committees that you're contemplating adopting this and give them an opportunity to provide you with some feedback, and also you yourselves to actually read these 2 pages and have an understanding of it rather than acting hastily. in the-
Sure, why don't we do that then?
That'd be good.
And we'll poll the boards and see if anybody has any strong feelings one way or the other, Evelyn, maybe.
Yeah. That is a good point, though, about, a lot of times someone does come in at the last minute, with some visual material, and of course, the person that's on the phone wouldn't be able to look at that.
From my own days going back, I'm sure Pete remembers as well, but you can have things where everybody's huddled around plans that are spread out up on the table, and there's the engineer pointing out this is the other thing.
Does the person who is remotely participating, are they counted as part of the quorum?
No,
They're not.
no, you've got to have
The quorum
a
present.
physically present quorum.
Okay,
That's how they interpret the open meeting law, for starters.
okay. And if there's a vote taken, I'm thinking, for example,
But they're
Plan-
not considered
planning board.
absent. They're not considered absent, that's in here.
And their vote would
Okay.
So
count.
they're kind of like in a limbo.
And-
Would their vote count on a procedural vote?
We have to
Nobody's
do-
raised the issue so far, but obviously, again, in your experience, that there are, in the land use area in particular, minimum quantums of votes, and for instance, the ZBA has to be unanimous. Special permits have to be a supermajority. So hypothetically, what happens when that's made up of somebody who was remotely participating? The town approved it, the AG approved it, but they didn't directly address those separate statutes. They were operating under the open meeting law. So, I don't know, I can't tell you. I could see somebody making that argument, because
They weren't there to look at things, yeah.
there's language in the bylaw, but again, you've got a line of cases that has nothing to do with the open meeting law, that has to do with
Oh, yes.
people present, physically present
Present.
through the hearing process. As a
I
matter of
see,
fact,
sure.
we actually adopted the one little flexible tool whereby
Somebody
somebody
misses
can
a
miss
meeting.
one meeting, review the tapes,
And then,
review the
yes.
tapes and all of the meeting, and then certify. How does that all tie in? I don't know.
probably wouldn't be an issue with the Board of Appeals, because you're required to have 3 people on a panel.
Yeah,
If one isn't there, you don't have a quorum.
yeah. I know that,
Or do you? Or do you? It's 2/3,
That's a quorum.
2 members of quorum?
No, because they have to vote, they have to be unanimous vote.
Oh, so all three
So
have
that
to be
would, the procedural would trump the quorum aspect when you're dealing with a zoning.
And the way that they always schedule is, or, they just find the 3 people that are available that night. They used to do that all the time when I was on the ZBA for the 10 years.
Right, yeah. I'm thinking, aren't there some votes on the planning board that
Planning
require a
board would really have
supermajority
more-
or
Well,
something?
at
or-
the moment, that's the ZBA, because they're special permit granting authority, and that's why they have, that's really the reason they have associate members.
It's not going to be used very often, I don't think. And I think it just allows someone like Gabby, or someone that, some type of an injury, they can't physically be there, to still take part and be there. I think just common sense, but I think your idea is good. If Evelyn can contact the other boards and we can see what, their views are, give us a chance to read this over. This may not help Gabby, because she'll probably be mended by the time we get to this, but in the future, I just think it kind of makes sense.
Vote to authorize me to sign the Neponset Valley Regional Stormwater Partnership Grant application of $5,000.
Yeah, this is similar to the one we did last year with them. It helps us with our stormwater, federal stormwater management permit requirement, which we have to do every 5 years, I believe it is. We have been able to implement some of the suggestions that they're coming up with into our 5-year plan, so it will be paid for out of the water department budget.
We didn't get a grant, we have to pay.
No, it's, I believe, 10 community, I think there may be some matching funds, but there are 10 communities that are kicking in $5,000 apiece as part of the Neponset River watershed. So 10 Neponset
Try
watershed
to
communities.
regionalize, so that's saving us money by getting the groups together.
Yes, yeah.
And this would, if we didn't do this, would be astronomical for Medfield to just try to do one.
To try to do some of these things on our own, yeah.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Selectmen are invited to attend Boys and Girls State presentations at the American Legion Beckwith Post 110 on Thursday, October 30. Vote to sign proclamation for Tree City Arbor Day Arbor Day ceremony will be held this Thursday, October 9 at 9 a.m. to dedicate the planting of the new ginkgo trees on Main Street. And I assume that it'll be at the ginkgo trees. Look around at 9 o'clock on Thursday.
Unfortunately, I don't know if either of you guys are around.
I got a conflict.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it.
Great, okay, because
Pretty rare, huh? I'm the one actually.
I'll be on an airplane to Minnesota. So moved, Mr. Chairman, we proclaim Tree City Arbor Day.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Vote to approve change order for water tank construction and vote to authorize me to execute change order number 1 document. And so maybe we need to find out what the change order is, Mike.
Yeah, this is a change order involving the removal of the contaminated soil around the water tower. The town has been trying to work out an arrangement with DCAM to handle some of the lowly contaminated soils, and for a variety of reasons hasn't been able to reach any agreement with them. The Water and Sewer Board is concerned that this will hold up the project and could result in delay damages, and also that they want to get the new tank online as quickly as possible. So the price is down considerably from their earlier estimates that the environmental partners had. It's about $148,000, and then we're doing it as a change order with Oliveira Construction, who's a contractor doing the water main work. So there's his fee on top of that, so his profits are supervisory fee. So that brings it to about $162,000. The engineers tell me they had about $300,000 set aside in the budget to cover these costs, so they feel it's within the well within the budget.
Good, excellent.
And they plan to start next week removing the soil. So
So the soils are no longer going to get buried on the, with the...
it'll all be removed from the site. Yeah.
And do we know why it didn't work out with DCAM? Because that seemed like a much less expensive solution to work with them.
You probably need to talk to Chris about that, and I don't know if Bill got involved in that at all, but it's been a long dance, I guess would be the way you'd call it.
I know they were worried because the goal was to bury it in the pile that they were making.
Yes.
That they were taking out of the river and
Yeah.
piling on the power plant location. And they were concerned, I gather, about whether or not they would have enough room for our extra material.
Oh, I think there'd be plenty of room for it. Yeah, from what have you been up there?
Yeah.
It's it looks like there's plenty of room.
John O'Donnell was supposed to come up with a deadline by which he would know how much they needed and when they needed it by, and that was a couple of weeks ago, so I have no idea what's happened since then.
Yeah.
So DCAM just let a deadline go by, and as a result, we're having to pick up tens of thousands of dollars of more in costs.
Well, the closing on the water tower was a little bit later than it was supposed to be too, for, going through the LDA and some of the arrangements and everything else,
Yeah.
and they were a little bit lax in getting the testing done up there on the soil to determine what met the lead standard and what didn't. So there's a whole bunch of circumstances here. I mean, it would have been nice if it worked, but.
Yeah. We are having a pre-construction meeting Thursday here with Phoenix Fabricators, with the low bidder, so they want to get started before the cold weather sets in, at least try to get the foundation in, so that's another reason to try to get the soil off. It'd be nice to have the soil out of there before they start.
I move to approve the change order for the water tank construction and to vote to authorize Chairman Peterson to execute change order number 1 document.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. We're asked to vote to approve change of hours for Sunday sale of alcohol for Gulf Resources, Inc., DBA Medfield Common, Main Street, new time, 10 a.m.
This is a new law that the legislature passed at the end of the last session,
Really?
allowing package stores to open at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings.
Oh, instead of, because it's new time, the old time before?
It used to be 11, I think, yeah. 12, was it 12, Evelyn? 12, okay. Evelyn probably knows more about this than I do. You want to fill them in on what their requirements are?
We've been through this already in Franklin, so we're ahead of the curve on this. Basically, the statute gives the package stores the right to increase their hours. However, there's forms, licenses have times on them, both at the local and is issued by the ABCC, So the ABCC issued an informational directive on this, instructing localities as to how to deal with this, which is basically that the local licensee needs to file certain paperwork with the municipality.
Yep.
And then because the ABCC wants to see a form from the municipality, you need to vote to approve it. As far as they're concerned, that is a ministerial act. You don't have any discretion. You simply vote to basically accept that
Right.
they're doing this. And then Evelyn will file the paperwork with the ABCC.
So we have no right to object to the earlier
Correct.
hours.
I think what you may have a right to object to is they put down they want to start at October 23rd, was it?
That's the effective date,
That's the
Yeah.
effective date of the statute.
yeah.
But I would say it requires ABCC approval.
No.
It does not,
No,
so,
not at all.
so you have no
It said
discretion,
it was the
period.
legislature who did it, so
Right.
Yes.
they just go
yeah.
along with it.
Just go on. Wow.
It could have simply, the ABCC could have simply issued a directive that alerted communities that this is the law.
It's the new law,
Just
that's
let
it.
them, they,
Just-
you know, as
Okay.
of right, which is what happened the last time hours were changed at the local level.
Yeah.
Actually, one of our licensees came in, and he knew about it before I did, because the legislature had tacked it on as a rider or something.
Yeah.
But no, they've now taken the position, they want to see this paperwork, this
Just
paper trail.
Yeah, paper trail for formality there. Okay.
So
it's
the
just formality.
communities asked for control over the number of liquor licenses that be issued, local control, and they denied that.
Right.
The owners of the liquor stores asked to have increased hours of
problem.
operation on Sundays, and they granted that with no
Nothing.
rights for the town at all. So it's a sort of a slap in the face to the towns, but,
That's
where it goes.
the editorial comment.
well, you know, it's just another one of those little things that gets you where,
No, it's absolutely ludicrous, because you will see, if you look back at the legislation over the last session, you will see two huge areas. One is the creation of sick banks for virtually every state employee who's needed one.
Yeah.
Dozens of them, literally. And which is obviously something that could be addressed much more globally if that's an issue.
They
And
do it
the
by
other one-
individual employees?
yes, oh, yeah.
And then the other one is, and the other huge effort is, they hand out, you know, additional licenses like candy, but they're doing it. They're the ones that want the control of, you know, giving them to the communities after they've requested them. So, that's a huge amount of their work in the course of the session, those two things.
That and $1
Wow.
billion for the expansion of the convention center.
Convention
So-
center, yeah. Really? So
We have to-
individual sick banks, so they vote
Oh, yeah.
for individual people?
This has been going on for years. Every day, if you look at the special acts,
Yeah.
they're all one after another, some employee of the MBTA, some employee of the court system, some employee of the prison system,
Really?
needs 30,
And
50
setting
additional
up a
sick days.
mechanism that would apply to
Yes.
everybody as they needed it.
Right.
So what does the sick bank do? How does it work?
They give them 30 extra sick days or 50 extra
Or
sick
it
days.
lets other
or whatever.
employees take
Contribute.
their excess or unused hours. and
Transfer
put it in
their,
the
their sick
Yeah.
days?
Hmm.
You got somebody that's got, you know, a chronic illness or whatever, you
Yeah,
gotta help them out.
Right,
Seems to me a much more efficient ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you're asking us to approve a change of hours that we really have no control because we can't.
This is more of
reduce
an
it anyway.
acknowledgement than an approval.
Yeah. What happens if we don't vote it?
I move we acknowledge the change of the Sunday sale of alcohol for Gulf, Inc., i.e. the Medfield Commons, 270 Main Street, the new time being 10 a.m., as apparently stated under state law.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Does that need to be signed, Evelyn?
Yep.
Yes.
We did, and I don't think it's, probably says acknowledge on it. It probably says approve.
Close close enough.
Yeah.
So now you can get your booze on the way to church instead of on the way home.
Yeah, the good news is hopefully they won't do any business between 10 and 11. So maybe we should put up a video camera at the site and record who goes in from 10 and 11 so we can have
Actually, a licensee
data.
up in Millis, they got nailed for serving outside of hours at a convenience store up there a few years ago.
Mhm.
And his defense was he was just trying to serve his customers.
There you go.
That was the demand. He was just trying to satisfy the demand.
Sure, yeah.
You know, I don't see why they just don't allow it 24 hours a day, the way it's going. They just 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and
Yeah.
be done with it. But
Yeah.
it's this incrementalism that, you know, just
Yeah.
bit by bit it gives, sort of like collective bargaining, you get a little more each time.
Yeah.
Next item, the Mass Municipal Association Fall Conference for Selectmen is on Saturday, October 25th at Tri-County. Licenses and permits. Medfield High School Theater Society requests permission to display signs October 24 through November 8, promoting their production of The Man Who Came to Dinner, November 7 and 8.
If any of you are interested in going to that selectmen's meeting, let Evelyn know, she can sign you up for it. On the other hand, that is the day when they're having the open house at the town garage,
Oh, okay.
and they're having an event at the gristmill that's.
Oh, that's right, the gristmill.
Later on, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Friends of the Dwight Derby House request a one-day wine and malt beverage permit for 2 Thursday concerts, November 13 and December 5, and permission to post signs promoting the event.
So moved, and just congratulations and kudos to the Dwight Derby House for the number of activities they're beginning to do down there as well.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Just to follow up on the earlier informational discussion, this is another one, a one-day license.
Yeah.
The liquor has to be acquired, or the beer and wine has to be acquired from a distributorship. You can't get this permit and then go to the packy and
Oh, yeah.
each of these.
Yeah.
And that's part of the state structure as well.
Hmm.
Does anyone monitor that?
No.
Actually,
I'm not gonna-
yes. The ABCC has their own agents, and they do, although they don't have a lot of them, they can show up and make problems in a local community.
So they could show up at the Dwight Derby House and...
There was one year when the, whoever it is that inspects the carnival-type things showed up at Memos
Oh, shut
Medfield
down the
Day and
train,
shut down
yeah.
the trains
Yeah,
that
yeah,
were running.
yeah.
Um,
You laugh, but if you were a 5-year-old, you would think it was so funny.
Oh, yeah, I know that, yeah.
Yeah, they really inspect them really closely now, you know, the trains, before they inspect all the rides, before they allow them to open up every year.
Well, they've had some real horrors shows.
Maybe rightly so.
It's nice of the guy's driving a really nice vehicle when he showed up this Saturday, this last year and stuff like that. Very brand-new, spanking-new Ford
good.
Explorer, all decked out, so certainly no issue with their budget for getting around.
What happens on that last one if somebody donates liquor to an event? You
Yeah.
know, like if a package store donates
Yes.
beer and wine?
You can't sell it.
Our next issue is the representative from the Montrose School requests permission to hold a 5K and kid fun run called Run Like a Maverick on Saturday, May 9, 2015, starting and finishing at the school to benefit the Elizabeth Mary Claire Schnickel Scholarship Fund.
Is that using town roads at all?
Yes,
just
the
with-
chief has been in touch with them. They called and asked about it, and I told them if they could clear it with the chief, and he's tentatively approved it, subject to your approval.
So he's okay? he's
Yes,
okay.
yeah. It's, they had a 15-year-old student that died this past year, and it's a fundraiser on her behalf, so.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Pending items, town administrator's merit raise increase. Christine gave us some numbers at our last meeting.
I'd go on the high side. So, Michael, you haven't gotten a raise in a long time.
I've got a merit increase in 4 years.
So there you go. That's
Maybe I got
exactly.
the 2%, so.
Yeah,
No merit increase for 4 years.
right.
Do you have a recommendation then that you want to make, Mark?
Well, I would go with, I think she had 4 as the.
She had 0 to 4%.
Yes, I would go with 4. 'Cause that's 1% a year, which doesn't sound to me like a lot of money.
I actually think it's embarrassing on our part, and almost to apologize to Mike for the delay in this, and I certainly would go along with the 4.
Apology accepted, no problem.
So we're unanimous that it'll be 4% then.
Aye.
Aye, good, excellent.
Meeting minutes. Evelyn gave us
Boatloads.
minutes
Boatloads of
from
minutes.
last December through recently. And have you guys had a chance to go through them?
I have to get a whole new router. I did have a number of corrections, and I can't print out. Can we wait to the next meeting so I can
Absolutely.
actually bring those?
Yep.
That'd be fine.
I apologize on that.
I haven't read through most of them yet either, so that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for getting those.
Medfield State Hospital status update. Buildings were toured last Friday.
Bill, you probably know more about the status of the cleanup. I can tell you the status of the water tower, which we've just discussed. But if you want to fill them in on the cleanup.
And did you go on that tour as well, Bill?
I did not, I was out of town.
Did anyone here go?
I got some feedback, though. I gather that the buildings that they went in were in pretty good shape. Obviously, you couldn't get into the buildings that were really bad shape. You wouldn't want to go into those.
I think they went into the 4 that C3 was evaluating.
Yeah, and they went into the S building.
Oh, that's the
That's
old
the old training center.
training center for the Department of
I
Corporations.
believe they went
That
into
would be
one of the
fine.
D buildings that was, recently used, of course, the Lee Chapel. Thought they went into 7 buildings, more or less.
Oh.
What I heard back was that the committee was impressed with the vista looking down from the A2 side down into the Charles River Valley, and I'm very impressed with that. They were impressed with the shape that the buildings were in. Of course, they didn't go into any of the poor buildings, as I said. They couldn't go into those.
Yeah.
But the buildings they went into were in reasonably good shape. Some of them were still nicely appointed. I mean, there's still marble in some of the restrooms and what have you. So it should be interesting. And the committee, I think, is meeting tomorrow
Yes.
with the representative from Foxborough. And I assume it's open to it's been posted, and it's going to be at 7 o'clock over at the town garage. So if anybody wants to hear what happened with the redevelopment in Foxborough, the rep will be there.
Is that
Far
the town
as-
planner who's coming?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Gil Rogers was, I think, instrumental in setting it up, so I don't know.
And actually, the town planner, because I went on the tour of Foxborough last weekend, the weekend before, whenever it was, and the current town planner took us through, but she wasn't there for a lot of it. So I think that Gil might have gotten the former town planner as well to come.
Well, it should be interesting. I mean, the Northampton one I thought was interesting as well, and when the person from Mass
Yes.
Development,
Absolutely.
Beth came in from
Yeah.
Mass Development. As far as the cleanup and the remediation goes, they're going great guns up there, but I think some elements of it are going to be somewhat delayed. The weather hasn't cooperated. They were hoping for lower water, so that the actual sediment removal of the oil-contaminated sediment may have to drag over into low water of next year.
Wow.
They are close to being done with the leveling, to getting the 3-to-1 slope. The last I heard, I read last week's report. Andrea Stiller, who's our consultant, is attending the Tuesday status reviews, construction progress reviews. I didn't see today's report. I don't expect anything significantly different from last week. The work's going as I said, very fast. The next big thing, I think, is they're waiting for Algonquin Spectra gas lines people to come in and take approximately 2 feet off the top of the gas line. And that contaminated soil will also go under the cap.
Do we actually know how deep that length, or how deep down into the ground that is, across the property?
Well, it's supposed to be 4 feet under from the top of the line, and it was actually somewhere, in some places, it was like 6 feet or 7 feet or 8 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
So the stats are available, I mean, but they've broken up the concrete from that was left over from the salvage yard, so that's all been, brought down into smaller chunks that will be ground up, pulverized, become part of the crushed concrete cap.
And unfortunately, they piled it on top of some granite blocks that were very nice, and so
Well-
I don't know if those have disappeared now, or whether,
I kind of asked that at least an eye be kept on them.
on the granite blocks?
Yeah, but I called, when I got the note from you a while back, I sent a note to John O'Donnell, and I said, at least keep an eye on them. I mean, they shouldn't walk away somewhere, I mean.
Well, the one that was very interesting that I had asked John O'Donnell to let the town take at the time, it was a granite piece that was square, but it had a circular hole in the
Yeah,
middle.
almost like a mill, yeah.
Like it had been a well cover or something.
Something.
And I thought it would have made a very interesting piece in the downtown somewhere, but that disappeared. And John never got back to me about it. He was obviously busy with other things. I asked him about a couple things, and I've tended not to hear back from him, so.
I will say he's busy. We're trying to get a follow-up mediation committee status meeting scheduled in the very near future to find out, what's going on with all the rest of the stuff. If you've seen some of the aerial shots that have been posted, it's really impressive. It's going to be a nice area. If I can just backtrack for 1 second here, there was a meeting scheduled tomorrow night for the Dover cell tower. They had canceled the meeting for the walkthrough that was scheduled for tomorrow, and instead, Dover Sherborne School Committee is meeting to discuss whether the school is going to push for having it put on their property.
I believe they're meeting tonight.
No, it's tomorrow, I think, Mike. I think. Got the notice
Because I
here.
talked to the chairman this afternoon. She wanted some information on the height of the tower and
Oops.
schedule for.
I apologize, it was tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, oops.
The chairman of the school department in Dover?
Yes, yeah, she wanted information on the height of the tower.
The water tower?
Yeah, what the
Our
schedule
water tower is
was.
an alternative site for the
Yes,
for the cell
yes.
towers.
She said there is a group organizing of parents and Dover Sherborne parents organizing to oppose the tower on school property.
Oh, good for us then, good.
Well, yeah, I guess, so.
Yeah,
So,
That would be
you
income
know,
to the town, so that's good, right?
well, if they can wait a year, it depends.
David Maxim said that we can put up a temporary for them if need be.
I think the issue is with the existing plan to put it over on, still on the parcel off of Evergreen.
David Maxim says that
Yeah.
if you have a better solution, that they're supposed to, under the federal legislation, they're supposed to go with the better solution.
Well, I don't know whether it has to be a current better solution, I just don't know how those things
Well,
work.
David said that they have these temporary towers that they bring in on a truck, and that, he said that would solve the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we were gonna go forward with our RFP, are we working on that?
Yes, I was talking to Dave Maxon about that. He had made some changes to it. I've had Mark review it, and Mark put together a contract, so we have to put some contingencies in there because the water tower hasn't been built yet. But the other thing, I sent a copy to the Water and Sewer Board asking them for permission to issue the lease, because ultimately they're the landlords and they would have to give approval, so you don't want to put out a bid and then find out they don't want it up there, so.
I would just follow up by saying that the tour of the Foxborough State Hospital was very informative from the standpoint that the apartments in the old buildings, and these are buildings that are maybe from the 1920s, at Foxborough State Hospital, Chestnut Green, I think it's called, and they apparently worked out very nicely. And they look nice from the outside. The buildings are handsome. We walk down the corridors are handsome.
Did they got the inside, or they actually reused the existing inside?
Didn't see the inside of any of the apartments. When you walk down the corridor on the first floor, it's like a three-story building. You walk up half a flight, and so we walked down the corridor on the first floor that you walk up half a flight to. That corridor, it looked like you were in a hotel in downtown Boston. It was very handsome. We went up to this corridor above that. It had the same build-out, except it didn't have the carpet on the floor, and so then it looked like kind of an old hospital building, because it had this sort of marble or granite, I think it was granite floors, which was probably what was under the rug on the first floor, but it just looked like an old floor. Whereas on the first floor, it looked like a hotel. It was very handsome. I guess because of the size of the buildings, the person who was leading us said that the apartments are only 12 feet deep, which some people thought would be a problem, but everybody that lives there doesn't seem to find it an issue. They also have an office building that's about the same era, 1920s, I think. It had, Lockheed Martin had a big space in it. And you looked in the door, through the glass door at Lockheed Martin, and they had like 24-foot ceilings. It was just this incredibly dramatic-looking space. And it was a bunch of other small businesses for like financial planners, CPAs, attorneys, medical office space. And the town planner said that it's basically filled up. But there again, they're near Route 1,
Yep.
95, they've got better access to things.
Yep.
The apartments are filled up, and they rent at higher rates than the general apartments in Foxborough.
Are they all apartments or condos or mixed? or-
They're rental apartments. Then there was a whole series of townhouses. Doug King seems to be the builder that's built most of the townhouses. And I had actually gone through one of the townhouses before it was sold about, I don't know, whenever, 5, 6 years ago when they were first selling them. The town planner said that about a third of them are owned by Patriots players, because they're big. They're like 3,000 square foot townhouses. The master bedroom suite is 1,100 square feet. It's huge. Basically just a 2-story townhouse. And, I mean, they're clean, bright, and all right, and brand new and all, but they're not architecturally interesting. They're just kind of blocks,
Yeah.
big blocks. And then there are a bunch of those, and then across the street, there's a bunch of $1 million houses, also built by this fellow Doug King, I think, that are just big
Yeah, boxes.
boxes, totally uninteresting architecturally. The townhouses and the $1 million houses seem to be filling up. They're selling them, so obviously there's a market for them. If we ended up with stuff like that, I would be very disappointed.
Yeah.
Their cemetery looks like something that was really forgotten. They do have a lot of the markers with the numbers on them, but there's no grass in the whole cemetery. It's very barren looking. It's fairly remote from anything else at the hospital. I guess ours is as well.
They haven't added the blocks with their names or anything like that, still just the numbers there?
It's just the numbers, and they're the blocks that are actually above the ground by maybe 6, 8 inches.
Yeah, that's what ours used to be before we put the blocks there with the names.
And it stays with the state. Did it stay with the state in Foxborough as well?
I don't know, they didn't, we'd lost the town planner by that point. What else was there? There was a big auditorium that they had. Randy Karg, who is on the committee, mentioned that he had gone there, and they had been using it as a haunted house at Halloween.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And he said that it was the scariest thing he'd ever been in his life. It was so scary that they wouldn't let kids go in. It ends with somebody with a chainsaw coming after you.
Now, they have to build a police station, I believe, there, too.
There's a brand-new police and public
Fire
safety
station.
building. It's
Right
just,
on the
and
corner.
again, I like the way ours looks much better. It was very
Yeah.
uninspiring. It was just, eh. On that auditorium building, they've done nothing with it. The town planner was a little dismissive of the town not moving forward with something on that. I mean, that would be sort of akin to our Lee Chapel building, where it could be something for the community. There's the public safety building, which is big.
Yeah.
And across the street from that is some retail, some new retail that was built on the space, and that's kind of nice. It's not enough density of retail space to really be a draw. I mean, there's no supermarket there. There's maybe a drugstore. There's like a Walgreens maybe, and
There's a Stop and Shop right around the corner.
is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right on 140 there, yeah.
Red shells.
So we didn't walk around the corner, but I was just and it was nice that retail was connected to some of these townhouses that this guy's building, and it was a very nice feel to walk down the sidewalk from the retail into the neighborhood. The retail didn't feel connected at all to the Chestnut Green Apartments, even though they were across the street. So that it struck me that if you were going to do the retail, it'd be nicer if it was near the apartments.
There were at least 3.
There were 3 developers, yeah, and a couple of them went bankrupt.
Not necessarily coordinated, one of them at least, and I'm aware of one under.
2 of them went under.
Yeah, because don't you overall get a little sense over the years, it's just kind of disjointed, it's just kind of like, things just kind of happened. I mean, you're looking at the buildings and stuff, it could
Well,
have
for whatever
flowed
reason,
better.
Foxborough opted for a lot of single-family homes.
Yeah.
So,
Did the planner say what percent of the buildings they kept versus which they took down?
they kept very few.
Very few.
Um,
So most of it's
the-
new construction.
The ones that they kept are the office building and the Chestnut Green Apartments. Now, out behind that, there's a chapel building which had no roof on it, which she said has got to come down now. They were planning on saving that, but they let it go so long that it's got no roof at this point.
As you said, it was later than ours, and so they were very institutional looking to begin with.
And there's some nice detail on the Chestnut Green Apartments. In amongst the brick, there's some very handsome terracotta work.
The original State Hospital's buildings,
Yeah.
they were there before, they're not like ours.
Well, that's what the Chestnut Green Apartments are. They're one of some of the buildings, yeah.
There's also a huge pile of rubble out behind the Chestnut Green Apartments where the buildings have just, I think that the way she put it was that the developer that is in control of that area was just moving so slowly that the buildings just got beyond the point where they could be used.
Demolition.
And so that they've just they ended up in a situation where they apparently turned control over to these developers and then lost control of what was going on. It looks like several city blocks, actually, of just piles of bricks, where the buildings used to be out behind the apartments. And then they've got some playing fields, they got some land that they've made playing fields out of.
On those buildings that were demolished, was there any indication about how they did handle the cleanup?
They're just piles of bricks that are sitting there at this point.
So
They haven't
they-
cleaned them up. I don't know what they did with the asbestos and things and the lead paint. I don't know.
Well, maybe
I
the
don't remember
person
anybody asking.
at the meeting tomorrow night
Yeah.
will be able to answer that.
Yeah. The planner was asked for what she would do differently, and I think that the big thing that I remember her saying was to have more control over the design.
Yeah.
That you want to give the developers flexibility, but you want to be able to control how it looks.
Yeah.
Pete, that kind of ties in with what Beth, I think it was Beth Murphy, was it? What she said about being careful about not piecemealing things, because then you wind up with different elements that look, not cohesive. You don't have a...
And what she said that resonated a lot with me was to have very general, flexible zoning, but they required site plan approval for every building ultimately, and then in the site plan approval process, they were able to tell the developer exactly what they wanted each building to look like at that stage. Northampton came out looking very nicely.
Yeah, it does.
Did they have any affordable units among them?
In Foxborough?
Yeah.
There was some discussion about the Council on Aging getting something, and I wasn't quite clear on that, Mike, to be honest. But I know that there was the Council on Aging, I don't know if they got it at the state hospital or not, but
I thought the original plan called for somewhere in the vicinity for a parcel of land to be dedicated for Council on Aging.
that might have been it, but it wasn't actually on the...
It's a couple of years since I looked at the original plans. And
Might not have been on the hospital grounds.
Was that for center or for housing?
I think it was for housing, Mike. And they started out, the original plan called for in the old buildings to be used for luxury apartments, and then the market kind of changed.
Right. And I think it was originally going to be condos. Because the market changed, they went to apartments.
Yeah, and the condos were originally going to be, I think, in larger unit buildings. I mean, more than the townhouse kind of thing. And then with the market changing, they decided to go more with the, like duplex kind of townhouses instead.
Yeah, they hit the construction phase just at the wrong time when everything was falling apart, so they were really unlucky.
My recollection was that the state kind of parceled it up and then put separate parcels out to bid. Whether or not they were part of the master plan, I don't know. My sense is it wasn't, and we left it to each developer, or group of developers bidding on a particular parcel to develop it without...
Yeah.
Yeah, one developer bought it with the intention, and I think it was known in advance that he was going to sell it.
Well, wasn't there some disagreement between DCAM wanted one developer and the town wanted
There was some
another?
political stuff that was
So,
involved.
and I think they ended up splitting it between the two, each got a piece of it or something.
And then
There was some politics
Yeah.
involved.
So actually, I did make some notes while I was there and just wasn't reading from them. The lessons learned: vision first, she said, have design guidelines, have design review, plan for smaller spaces. They have a little gazebo out in front of the Chestnut Green apartment. She says that's really the only outdoor space that they planned, and it'd be much nicer to have a lot more outdoor spaces. No outdoor space at Foxborough State Hospital apartments except the pavilion. Plan for smaller spaces. I mean, I think she was thinking, have benches and things like around the whole place.
Did they have any idea, give you any idea who was renting the apartments? Were they young singles, older folks, married couples with young children, or? No?
No, I don't think anybody asked that. The only tenants we heard was, she pointed to one house that said Troy Brown lives there, and then she said that a third of these are Patriots players. So that was
In fact,
it.
you walk to the stadium through the woods.
That's right.
Selectmen's reports. Richard, you want to start?
Sure.
We got to find out what's in the bag?
The last meeting we had with the folks dealing with the cemetery and the dogs, I'm not quite sure when we're going to act on that, but I was just curious of what...
Or if we're going to act on it, based on the minutes. What do you think, if you see the minutes, it doesn't say that we're going to do anything.
Well, I was just curious, what do the towns around us... So I actually called the towns immediately around us and then went online to the websites of the other towns. It was kind of interesting, the results. 21 of the 26 towns do not permit dogs in cemeteries. And as you can see, Walpole, Westwood, Norwood, Hopkinton, Dover, does not permit, it's interesting,
You should do
Medway, which has a private cemeteries, dogs are not permitted, but they said that there's an ongoing battle, and they said they put signs up saying no dogs, and they get torn down. They put them up, they get torn down again. And Norfolk and Rentham have nothing in their bylaw that even mentions it. Natick is no dog, Ashland is no dog, Holliston, a private cemetery, is no dog, Wayland is no dog. Weston does not allow dogs except a dog may attend the funeral of a member of its keeper family and may accompany family members to visit the grave site of the deceased family members. And when that does happen, they must be kept on a 6-foot or shorter leash. So Weston was very
And
specific
the
on
dog
this.
cannot urinate there. So
They
you gotta
cannot.
Tell the dog not to do that before you go. Jeez.
Sherburne, no dogs. Concord does allow one on a leash. Lexington, no dogs. Danvers, Harvard, Littleton, Reading, no dogs. Andover allows them on a leash. Hudson, Cambridge, Maynard, and Waltham, no dogs. So that's a little sample of the area towns.
Yeah.
Sounds like the majority, no
No
dog.
dogs.
21 out of the 26. do
Well,
not
the
allow.
interesting thing is, a number of these are the so-called, the rural laid-out cemeteries with
Yeah.
paths and all. Concord's like that, Mount
Yeah.
Auburn, and those types of
Sure.
cemeteries. And apparently they don't allow dogs.
I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Concord does, yeah. It's huge, I was just like, it's huge.
Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, that is huge.
Must be firmly on a leash at Concord, though. You know, if you're gonna have your dog, they have to be firmly.
10,000 people buried there. That's how big it is.
Concord?
I went for historic reasons a couple of weeks ago, and I was prepared for a little, no, it's huge.
Up and down.
It goes on and on and on.
Huh.
Need a map to find the Arthur's Ridge.
Just to follow with the railroad tracks, Farm Street, Harding Street, do we get that letter off?
No, but I will get it. I've got it straight, so I'll get that out.
And then, we were going to meet with the Water and Sewage Board in September. Mr. Chairman, what happened with that?
I don't know.
Building a water tower.
Didn't a couple of selectmen go to their meeting?
Yeah, we had said that we would go to their meeting.
So that's why they didn't come here.
That's right.
No, we were going to theirs, Mike
They,
suggested.
I think they've been out straight with this water tower
Yeah, I
thing.
think they're a
Yeah.
little busy.
Yeah.
Scheduled on their agenda.
Yeah.
I also attended the funeral of Dr. Sullivan, who was a doctor in Medfield for 42 years. Coming to Medfield, I believe 1961 or 2. He served on the school committee for numerous years. Just a very involved individual, loved the town of Medfield, so his condolences to the Sullivan family, very large family, and so
Well,
they
they've really scattered, haven't they? They're
Yeah.
all over the place.
they really are. I think Jim is the only one in Medfield.
Jim, and one has a place in Dover when he's not in Shanghai.
Yeah. I also received from Hong LeBruno, and this actually is Franklin, puts out, Meet Me in Franklin, it's called. And I was mentioned
Downtown
the,
Partnership put that out.
it's with the Metro West Visitors Bureau. But I was talking about trying to market Medfield, and it's interesting because this has it lists all the local shops, and then it lists the different restaurants that are there. It has a map, and I know our cultural district has a similar map, but just something to market the town. I'd love to see Medfield. We have just so much to offer, I think. And I don't know whether to get this to memo or to the town planner, or,
Well, I thought that's what the Cultural District Committee was
And they
set
do.
up with, was set up to do.
but I don't think they were getting into the restaurants and things like that, but maybe,
Well,
so,
that was one of the reasons they didn't accept him as a cultural district. They said that they wanted more emphasis on the marketing aspect of it.
so you think
They-
this should go to Gene?
I think, I probably would send it to both. I'd send it to Memo and to
Okay.
Gene.
But this was well done, I thought.
It was a time the memo had something like that, much simpler, but they did have a brochure back in the early days.
I was over at the courthouse in Dedham, and I picked up there a similar couple of brochures about downtown Dedham.
But
I
I
did
think we
bring
could
in,
mail
but I
these
don't
out.
seem to have many
We
more.
got a market here, man, especially with the number of restaurants, and I think we're having the Basque restaurant's supposed to open soon, isn't it?
I don't know when they'll open, but they did get
Got a waiver from the state on their
right
behalf.
on the bathroom.
That's from-
So they
That's
can,
what-
they're
that was
moving
all-
ahead.
That's what was holding it up.
Yes,
Okay,
they're
so-
moving ahead.
Because I thought he originally said September, so.
Yeah, I think he ran into a problem with the drainage or a bathroom.
Right, with the bathroom.
There's
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
code, state plumbing code requirements, but they can be waived, but you have to start with the local, and then it goes up to the state, and they have a hearing, and obviously that all takes time, and
Sure.
And then
They
they
had
had,
a
we'll
bathroom.
bill out till you get that straightened out.
and they had an issue where there was no drainage under the building
Right.
where they wanted to put the
But
bathrooms in.
that site had a bathroom. Do they need a men's and ladies
Well,
bathroom?
I think normally it's supposed to put two, but they
Because of the
granted a
drainage
waiver for
problem.
unisex bathroom. If you have below a certain number of seats, I think it is.
Yeah,
They
that
will give
started
you a
out as
waiver.
like a little breakfast place, I think, the
Right.
first iteration, and then it just
Yeah.
kind of stayed in that vein.
Can we have a note of thanks just over to Brothers Marketplace? They worked very well with the abutters, and they put up that additional fence that's along the abutters property,
Nice fence.
both on the Pleasant Street and on the South Street side. I just think they're being good neighbors. I'd like to follow up just with a thank you note for their cooperation with that. I attended the first of the sharing committee meetings with the towns of Westwood, Walpole, Millis, Medway, Medfield, Sherburne. I was very encouraged by that. Maybe we have 4 selectmen and 2 warrant, or some towns call them finance committee members on that. And they meet again on the 23rd. This time it's going to be over in Millis. They have a member of the Metropolitan Planning Council coming to speak with them, and they're going to begin to work on the mission and vision statement. So I think they're underway on that. Again, Gus Murby is the representative we have from Medfield. So I had my Medfield TV interview with Jack Peterson. I also attended, and just kudos to the police and fire departments, the hazardous material mock disaster that they held over in Norwood, and they had all the areas, I think it started like South Norfolk or something, the towns that were there. And they actually used Medfield as the example that there was a derailment and a chemical explosion on 109 in Medfield. And it's just amazing, both Chief Kingsbury and Meany, they're right on top of this, which just made me feel real good of knowing what to do and how they would operate. But we were with Millis and Medway, and what impact it would have on them. But I just think these mock disasters, I know about 4 years ago, the Board of Health had one about a major hurricane hitting Medfield. It just gets everybody prepared. I think both our police and fire really did a very good job on that. I met with the Aesthetics and Sidewalk Committee. They're coming up with their final presentation, the recommendations that they're going to recommend to the planning board. And my guess is they would then be dismissed after they make their recommendations on what the sidewalk should be like, the type of trees that should be planted, and the type of crosswalks that should go in. So that, I think, went very well. Mark will probably speak more about Medfield Day. I was at the Medfield High School Alumni Association booth, just a great day for that. I attended the first of the mini town halls as we begin the new year on this in September down at Tilden Village. And we had about 26 residents there. I want to, again, thank Chief Meany because he came and did a great presentation on the public safety building, the police and the fire, and the residents explained, what exactly it would be and what it means, and he did a nice job with that. Some of the concerns, and I don't have this with my water, the quality of my water on Lawrence Circle is very good, but they were very concerned about the chlorine in their water at Tilden Village, just the taste, and they won't drink it, and I don't know, is that just the way of life because we have to treat the water in the tower? Will it get better with the second water tower, or?
I don't think so. I think we're mandated now to chlorinate the system, so unless we can apply for a waiver once the second water tower goes online, I think it's a fact of life. I think the problem is we forever didn't have chlorine in the water, and now that we've added it, I know have said you notice it. I don't notice it at all.
I don't
think
notice
it's
it at
just
all.
I think some people are much more sensitive to chlorine than others, and some people you put the least little amount in, and they notice that other people, you could drink Clorox out of the bottle, and they probably wouldn't notice the difference.
So it's not necessarily where they are in relation to the tower and the tower?
I don't think so. I think maybe for a while because we were just chlorinating the wells 1 and 2 down by the river. So we used to get more calls from the Bridge Street and
Oh, because
that
they were
area
closer
down
to the
there,
wells,
yeah.
yeah.
Once you had to put the aeration tower in, that's when you had to add the chlorine, because the water was coming out of the ground and going up into the air.
Yes, yeah, and even though we've disconnected that tower now, you still have to chlorinate because the
Yeah.
water comes out of the ground.
We should
so.
try to sell that on eBay, see if we can get some of our 600,000 back.
Selling chlorine water?
The aeration
Yeah.
It
tower,
was more than that, to be honest.
well, 800,000 then, if we can get 20,000.
So there's nothing really to do with that?
Certainly not in the near future, at least a couple of years, we're not going to be able to do
I
anything.
had asked Jeremy Marset about that, and he told me that we chlorinate very, very little. So
They
that
do,
it-
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's-
But
I
even
find it
very little,
noticeable.
some people will pick it up.
Oh,
Yep,
definitely.
I find it very noticeable.
Oh, yeah.
And the other concern many of them had were the loud train whistles at the night, and I think that we have no control over that.
Federal law. They're required to blast the whistles. Now, some lean on the horn a little bit harder and longer than others, but it is a federal law that they're required whenever they approach a grade crossing, I think a half a mile before, they have to sound the whistle.
Yeah.
Incidentally, on that point, the chief and I and Patrick from Senator Timothy's office went down to the railroad crossing in the center this morning and took a look, and he took some pictures of the Rube Goldberg solution, temporary solution down there with the ropes, and we would tell him that we sort of were getting a runaround. We went from Congressman's office to Mass Department of Transportation to CSX, and CSX never calls back. They had been out there and done some work. You ought to go down, if you're down there, and take a look at it. It looks like they've taken extension cord wires, pieces of extension cord, put them inside the tracks and connected them to make a longer loop. The loop was a little one where the pieces of rails separate.
Yeah.
They just had a little loop. Well, these are about 3 feet long. To me, it looks like extension cord wiring. They wired up
Yeah.
for about 3 feet.
Yeah.
And the chief thought as a temporary solution that might work. It is, it's kind of their Rube Goldberg solution to our Rube Goldberg solution. Patrick was going to go back and try to see if he could get a hold of somebody from CSX in Kennedy's
So
office.
is CSX thinking that it's solved at this point, or are they just trying
It's
things
not
out?
solved, but it's temporarily improved.
They're
So,
still willing to consider different solutions?
well, we haven't heard from them, so we don't
We
know.
don't know. All right.
One of the problems is CSX Railroad is based in Florida. As the chief said, they have thousands and thousands of railroad crossings scattered all across the country, so they don't consider this an issue as far as they're concerned. This is just one of 10,000, 20,000 grade crossings they have in this system, so.
Well, I had a long talk with Senator Timothy on that, and I think he agreed that it's just a runaround. He said what makes people upset with government and politics is when you just get passed on from one to another to another.
Yes. Well, and this isn't government necessarily. Ultimately, this gets to, CSX is a private railroad, but they have government protection.
But they must have also a government over to make them do what they're supposed to do.
Railroads were pretty powerful, and some of the laws are still on the books. They have eminent domain
Federal
powers.
agency that provides the oversight is very much an industry.
If it's a federal agency, then that means our congressmen should have some power to do something to stop a serious safety issue in Medfield Center. Yeah, you're talking ambulance, fire, delays, you're talking gridlock of traffic. And if it's federal, then we need Congressman Kennedy to get on it.
Well, that would be the level that you'd have to address.
Yeah.
I mean, with all the well-meaning intent, I don't think the state officials are going to really have much impact.
No, and yet that's who we were referred to by Congressman Kennedy's office. They referred us to the state DOT, and the state DOT referred us to CSX. So, I mean, it's sort of your classic runaround. So I think we just have to start all over again and keep hounding them until they do something. As I said to the chief, maybe we need to have Congressman Kennedy get some executive from CSX to come up from Florida and take a look at it and show them what's happening.
Or we could have a DPW truck break down at the railroad crossing.
Yeah, wouldn't that be different? But you know, it's silly. They told the chief that is the best, the finest signal system that they have, the gates and the
really?
lights and everything.
Yeah.
I would guess probably cost $250,000 anyway. So what are we doing? We're tying a piece of rope to hold the gates up to this technological advanced system, and we're burning out we're going to burn out the motors because the gate keeps trying to come down, and we have a rope tied to hold it up so the traffic can get through. It's dumb beyond belief.
The other issue that they had in Tilden, Candace, who is the director there, who does an excellent job, I gave her Steve Nolan's name, and she was going to contact him of trying two things: to increase the subsidized housing in the lot next to Tilden, which I think they have a little over 2 acres, and she also would also like to get her voice in of whatever goes up at the state hospital to have similar property as far as the state subsidized housing up at the state hospital as well. So she was going to contact him and kind of voice her support for that. I attended the Community Study Memorials meeting. They're working on the memorial signs, waiting for the highway to get up, who's very, very busy. We're going to recommend at the town meeting that the area off of Rocky Lane, of land, conservation land that was donated by Barbara Layton, be named after her, and that the area of the intersection of Emerson Road and Flintlock be named after Paul Curran, longtime veteran agent and person that just volunteered on numerous things, be one of the civic squares. So they came up with that. They updated the Vietnam Memorial at Baxter Park. The issue was the date has changed of when that war started, and the monument we have is from 1964 on. The new official date is now 1961. And there was also a number of names missing, and Ron Griffin, the veteran agent, has come up with 40 additional names that would need to be added to that. And luckily, when we did it the first time, it was alphabetically, and we left space between each of the letters, so at least the names will fit into the first letter of the alphabet. I would like to see if we could, on October 17th, the 1964 Medfield High School football team, the only one in the school's history that was undefeated, untied, they're going to be honored at halftime of the game. And can we have some kind of a undefeated, untied Medfield High School football 50th anniversary day or something to that wording to present to them as well from the town?
Sure. Do you want to vote
I
to
can
declare
give you
that?
Yeah.
I so moved that we...
We'll come up
Make
with an
that special
appropriate
day.
name for it.
Yeah.
So.
I can send you the information if you can.
Yeah, if you
Fancy
can get it to
wording.
us, Evelyn, I can
Great.
write something up, so.
Good, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Yep.
Was there a guy by the name of DeSorga on that team, by the way?
Well, that was my much older brother. That's all, Mr. Chairman, although I would like the floor back when we're done with information before we actually adjourn, if that's possible.
Okay. We had our high school 40th reunion this past weekend and stuff, so it was nice. Richard was the guest of honor, if you want to call it and stuff. So it was, Richard, everyone had a great time on the bus tour. You know, I heard a lot of comments from people, particularly folks that hadn't been back in town, obviously, in a long time.
It was a fun group.
So everyone mentioned that they really had a great time touring around Medfield on Saturday and stuff and seeing how the town's changed over the last 40 years.
We actually did a walk through the state hospital as well.
Yeah. So they really enjoyed it and stuff like
Did
that.
many come back?
Probably, I don't know,
58, I think he said.
out of the class, yeah. So it's like 191 or something like that
Pretty
in the
good for a
class. So I think
40th,
that's
yeah.
probably
You
pretty
guys had a
good.
big class.
Yeah, we had a big class, yeah. So it was pretty good. But yeah, everyone, so Richard was the star of the show with the Saturday.
I was the oldest.
And he was there autographing copies of his books for all the members of the class, stuff like that, on Saturday night, so it was very nice. Yeah, so it was good. We had a good time. So that's it. Pete?
I went to the Dukakis Center, invited municipal officials to come for their, they were having their 15th anniversary, and they did an interesting thing, which was to throw a dinner party for municipal officials. And so I went, and they had all of these state agencies, groups that would be providing services to towns that were there. And so it was like a trade show almost. And then you went to dinner, and then you heard the politicians. The governor was there, Markey was there, the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, and, I mean, there were a lot of politicians. I went around, just talked to people about Medfield State Hospital, so I talked to somebody from MAPC, and I said, we've got a state hospital that we're buying. Can you guys help us figure that out? And they said, oh, yes, that's what we do. So that I think we should get in touch with MAPC and ask them about their services, that they can help us. This guy I sat next to at dinner, he turns out he's a developer. He's sent me an email the next day, said he'd already looked at the vision for the state hospital, so I don't know if we'll hear back from him or not. There was this interesting group that has a software package that basically provides total transparency, I guess, for the town government functions. Newton is working with them. They're trying it out in Newton. Bumped into the chair of the Natick Board of Selectmen, Mass Development. Again, I told them that we'd been in touch with Beth Murphy, and they said, oh, well, do whatever she says then, not what we say. And then there were people from Northeastern, there were architects. They weren't very helpful or useful for us, but there was an interesting evening.
Hope you didn't tell them we were working with Wentworth. That's their next-door neighbor, probably.
Oh, yeah, no.
They do, yeah.
And then they had a singing group that came on at the end that was really actually very good. They were all people my age, and they sang Duke of Earl for Michael Dukakis. He and Kitty Dukakis looked very good, actually.
He must be in his 80s now. I
He
think.
looks like he's in his 80s, yeah. And Kitty was referring to Senator Markey as the congressman, so wasn't quite sure.
She wasn't quite up to speed.
The Medfield Cares About Prevention group has started with its leadership meetings last week, and then we're going to have a meeting this Thursday to start work for the year. Unfortunately, the town did not get the grant that Don Alcott was looking to get for the town. The $625,000 grant. I guess the group had decided last year that we would try to keep working on prevention issues and safety issues for the kids, regardless of whether we got the grant. So we just won't have a staff person to do it. I attended a couple of the parent information nights to hand out flyers that Sue Cowell, I guess, is the wellness instructor from the high school, had prepared nice little flyers for the parents, and I was handing them out at Wheelock and at Dale Street. So this is like second and third graders and fourth and fifth graders, parents, and all of a sudden they're getting a flyer on prevention. And I guess the idea from the Medfield Cares About Prevention group is that it makes sense to start talking to the parents earlier than high school.
It's too late then, yeah.
Although, what was the group they had a few years ago? It was a program with the police in the schools.
Dare.
And they did away with that, I think, or because they said they needed to work with older kids, because it was the young kids were very receptive to the DARE message, but as they got older and started to get into the high school, junior high school age, that's when they really needed the
I remember
more
seeing an
attention,
article
I
in the
think.
paper that stated that the statistics showed that DARE didn't really do anything. And so I don't know the details of it or not. I
Yeah.
also know that I heard that either the chief or the superintendent of schools say recently that that's one of the things that they're looking forward to in their like 5-year thinking, that there would be a resource officer, police officer for the schools, I think. So I think they're thinking of somehow working that into the system in the future.
A lot of schools do that now. Unfortunately, it seems to be necessary in a lot of places, but
Well, the new law, I think, requires that, doesn't it? But,
another unfunded mandate.
yeah.
That's an expensive mandate too, you're talking, by the time you take the salary and benefits and whatnot and overtime and office space, you're
Yeah.
talking big, serious bucks.
Yeah.
And they just keep piling them on, piling them on, piling them on.
I had Selectmen's office hours last Friday. First Friday of every month, I'm at the center from 9 to 10. Anybody that wants to come and talk about town issues. I went to the Historic Society's monthly meeting last night, and John Thompson spoke about archaeology in Medfield, and I got a little lesson in Medfield geology too, because he's a geologist, and the geology ties into where the archaeology sites are in town. Very fascinating, actually. I got sort of an instruction as to why Lake Medfield existed and why the banks of the Neponset River are so steep, because apparently Lake Medfield let go in a big whoosh.
Yeah.
And it all went down the Neponset River, and I don't know why it went down that way instead of the Charles, but it carved out the Neponset River banks at a very steep angle, apparently.
It was a big enough lake, huh? That it could do that. Must have been huge.
It was, he said it was like from the Peak House over to the, that screw building on Dover Road in Millis. That was the lake.
Wow.
It was just, it was like a glacial melt lake. And he had maps of where the glacial till was, and I, yeah, and I
Back in
guess.
those days, you didn't have to fill out any reports.
It's actually beyond comprehension how thick the glacial ice was.
It was almost a mile, they said in this area,
Wow.
That's vertical now, that's just.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's occupied me is the Medfield State Hospital. The committee that's negotiating that is working on the land disposition agreement terms with the DCAM. They had proposed some terms, and we have proposed back some alternate terms to them, and we're trying to work through it's like after we agree to buy it, now we're working on the P&S, basically. And that's it.
Okay, let me fill you in on a couple of things. First, I wanted to mention that one of our former principals passed away and is going to be buried Thursday, Andrea Thrasher, so we'll have the flag at half-mast in her honor. I understand she did quite a job with the kids, and the kids are really fond of her, so it's a shame.
She had a long battle with cancer.
Cancer, yeah, 2007, I think they said it started, so she was only, about 57, I think.
Mm-hmm.
A few other things, you know, Bill gave you an update on the cleanup. I wanted to update you a little bit on the construction work on the water main and the water tower. As I mentioned, the contaminated soil, they expect to start removing that next week. And that should probably take, I think, 2 to 3 weeks, they estimated, for the removal. The water main, he's had to stop because the Mass Historic Commission didn't want any trees taken down up on the hospital site. So we've had to relocate the water main easement. And until we have the easement recorded, we can't start work on that. And we're still also trying to get permission from CSX to go under the rail line on Hospital Road. So fortunately, the contractor's been very cooperative. He has a small job to do in Millis. So he's shut down his operation in Medfield and is doing the work over in Millis. And so we expect within a week or so, we'll be able to resume work.
What's the holdup with CSX?
They need that specialist, they need to have the guy come in, right? To
Is this
fly
the
in.
flag man?
The flag man,
It's a
specialist.
major production of
Oh.
motor rail line.
Yes. You have to have flagmen, you have to have
Yeah.
inspectors,
That's right.
and they have a,
You have to agree to indemnify them 3 ways to Sunday.
yes, and then you have to submit all kinds of information. They've hired a private consulting firm to handle the inspection, flagman work for them, and
Sure.
but there was something about the flagman had to come down from Albany, New York, and I don't know, it just goes on and on with these things. I just try to put it out of my head and let the consultant worry about it.
Yeah.
But he's really done a remarkable job on that water main up
Yeah.
there. And probably without those holdups, he'd probably be just about done by now. So
I noticed when I was up there over the weekend that they pretty much run it from the site of the new water tower down to just about to Hospital Road. There's a break where the trees are in the way that they're going to go around, I guess. But
well, they had started clearing a path, and then they were stopped.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the long run, that works out to our benefit because of the fact that we got rid of that dog leg that came across our property, so.
I guess, yeah.
I think that's a nice result for us.
Yep.
As I thought about that after we had that discussion at our last meeting, I decided that it would have been, that it's better to have it off of our land. So
Yeah,
I'm happy with that.
It'll come in right about where, right opposite that house
DCR.
for the DCR house,
DCR,
DMR.
DMR.
Yeah. But that's about it on that. We're hoping that, as I said, we have a pre-construction meeting here in Town Hall Thursday. And hopefully they'll get started up there, mobilized, and in a few weeks they'll be starting up there on the foundation.
Like, I think they're finished on Long Meadow too, all the work on Long Meadow Road, I think.
Yes, that's right. I think they have, yeah.
And they
Yeah.
rebuilt the wall after going through the wall, which
Yeah.
was a concern for some of the residents. that
They,
didn't
you
want
know, they were a small contractor, but they've turned out to be great. They're very happy
Stone
with them.
wall at the
I think,
top
yeah.
of Long Meadow? You mean between the Long Meadow and the hospital?
They had to take the wall down to go
Yeah, okay.
extend the water main through the wall, basically,
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
to the tower location.
Yeah, there was a
Wasn't much of a wall, but,
Well, no, but some of the residents were concerned that the wall be rebuilt, and it's
Yep,
back.
good.
I saw it the other day, drove by. So.
Yeah, there's a 500-foot section that they had to increase the size of the main to connect. There's a larger main from 500 feet out in Long Meadow. But they, what was it, a 12-inch and an 8-inch, I think, or a 6 and an 8, whatever. So, a couple of other things. The moderator has made 2 new appointments to the warrant committee. He sent a letter last week, and
Very nice.
sounds like he's up to full steam now. They've scheduled a meeting, what was it, 21st, Evelyn?
Yes.
For their first meeting, and Mike Marcucci is the chairman this year.
Okay.
Kingsbury Pond Committee, this is kind of unusual. This is the 25th. This is the same day as the Town Garage Open House. And fortunately, through miracles of scheduling, the Town Garage Open House is going to be 10 to 2. The gristmill is going to be 2 to 4. So, and that's without talking to each other. They did that. When you'd go over 27 in Walpole, just before the light, there's those horses in the field. Yes. They've arranged to have the owner of those is going to bring them over and use them to haul the turbine for the water, for the gristmill around from up top. It's in that barn section, and the horses are going to move it down to the back. It'll be a cup. They won't put it in that day. They've got some additional work to do. And they have to move a couple of granite blocks so they can fit the turbine in under the gristmill. So Rich Judge told me that they're going to, that barn section that was added on later on at the gristmill, they're going to turn that into a museum. So
Really nice.
They've
So-
done a nice job.
yes, they have, yeah. And that'll be, I think that's a fun thing for kids to see. I mean, how often you get
Oh,
to
yeah,
see
the-
draft horses at work, so.
Yeah.
And the chief is on board. He's talked, they've had one of those events before when they had the dedication where he had his men stationed. They had highway put out cones and
Yeah.
sort of handle the traffic and the pedestrians. About the no dogs at the cemetery, I did talk to Mark about that. And Mark feels that the cemetery commissioners need to, if they're going to adopt a fine schedule and regulations, they need to be adopted by town meeting. So in order to establish fines and to prohibit dogs, it's going to have to be voted on by town meeting.
so they've prohibited dogs already, but they can't enforce it, is what you're
Well, I
saying.
mean, there are actually several statutes that regulate public cemeteries and the entities that run them, and there's several options. One is to have elected cemetery commissioners, one's to have appointed by the selectmen. The only ones that have authority to make regulations are the elected ones, and even then, the statute requires subject to approval of town meeting. So any way you look at it, it has to go to town meeting.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? And they single out Medway as one of the good examples. I was trying to
That
think.
one can't possibly be a good
Well,
example.
well, where do you see what it is? I was just trying to think this whole issue with the dogs, if we prohibited dogs from the cemetery across on the old landfill, I know we can't dig in that, but could that be like a dog park?
We already have too many dog parks.
Well, no, an official dog park, and for some reason, I don't know where it is, but they keep saying Medway has a tremendous dog park.
Yeah, it's right below the police station, right to the east of the police station, where Village Street comes up there. Ironically, it's the site of the first settler's house. They got a bunch of dogs running around, and
So, who controls that? Town controlled? Is that private?
it started out as an Eagle Scout project. And I think it's sort of run by a committee of people who use it, because there are residents that live all around there, and there were issues with, dogs it barking and at odd hours and stuff, but they seem to have gotten together and put into effect regulations that
So
seem to work.
that's town land?
It is town land. It's the old railroad bed, a part of the old railroad bed, right
Okay.
before where they took the viaduct down.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's right before there. It gets a huge amount of use. And Franklin has also built a smaller one, which was also initiated by a kid doing some sort of a community project. And that one, it's smaller than Midway's, but I understand that gets a lot of use as well.
But I wonder, because it's an issue at Wheelock and the cemetery and others, if we had one dog park that maybe that would solve some of the other issues we have.
Well, right now you have a lot of people use Noon Hill. A lot of people use the hospital, walk their dogs up there. A lot of people use the area behind the Wheelock School on the other side of the railroad tracks. There are other areas in town. I'm trying to think, there was another one I just thought of, but, so there are plenty of areas for people to
Yeah, but
walk
that-
their
we
dogs
run into
besides the
problems
street.
with-
They
We run
don't
into
walk,
problems.
the dog park, you just basically, you come in, you take your dog off leash, and the dog just runs around
Yeah.
and potties. It's really,
Yeah.
it's hysterical to watch, because my stepdaughter has a dog, and we take care of her. And the dogs really get excited even knowing they're going there.
Right.
And then when a newcomer dog comes in, the whole pack runs over to the fence to greet the newcomer, and then, because they're pack animals. So then that dog has to find it, and then they all en masse will run around the place. It's really quite entertaining. And the other people the people sit there and socialize.
So someone maintains it and cleans
You
up?
have to
and-
pick up after your dog if your dog,
Oh, you
there's a
yourself
set of
do that?
rules, yeah.
Okay.
So if the dog, does its business, you have to pick that up, and then the town actually puts down fresh chips periodically. As far as I can tell, it's the DPS doing the work.
And do you have to take it with you?
They may have a barrel there, I don't know for sure.
I guess that's one of the problems, when the barrel fills up down behind the wheelock, they just keep leaving it there and it overflows. And I'm not sure, given the choices they have in Medfield, how well-received a dog park would be, because I think people like to walk around all these open spaces we've created for them.
Well, I think they
rather
can still
than
do
just
that,
a
but
little-
I don't know if I want them walking around the cemetery. If the option, if
Well,
we take...
if the cemetery were the only place where they could walk them, I'd say that's one thing, but, you've got the state hospital, you've got
You have a lot of.
Rocky Woods has dog
Yeah,
walking
but
up
they have all
there.
kinds of restrictions now. What they
Well,
You still
maybe
do
there
it, though.
should be restrictions. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but Noon Hill doesn't have any restrictions. And, we're getting a lot of people coming from other towns because our areas are so much better. They're not a little cage, where you run around in circles. I think,
Well, I don't think Medway's just a little cage, is it?
It's a good sized fence, too. It's not huge, but they can run.
what is it, about an acre?
Yeah, I don't think it's even.
I don't know, like, we just got a lot of land that sits up there in the old landfill. We can't use it to dig in. I'm just trying to think something, if we can have, and I don't even know how you would go about doing this, but I was just
The
thinking.
biggest issue would be fencing, because you can't.
Well, you got partial fencing on two ends already right now.
On two ends. Where's the other end?
You have it along.
On 27?
27, then you have it going down by the garage.
Fence it?
Yeah, and then it opens up with that little road, so there's like a little L there.
So you could complete
A
the
little,
fence
yeah.
if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I just was trying to throw out, if they can't walk in the cemetery, the dog park would be
Yeah.
something that,
Well,
you know.
seem to be something that a committee would have to do. I mean, I don't think
Yep.
this should be another thing that the town would have to pay for, because then, my God, there's another thing. All of a sudden, we'd have the DPW would be
Yeah,
taking care of that section too.
Well, I think it has to be something like in Medway where it's
Yeah,
kind of a.
or park and rec, they'd be up there mowing or doing a, you know.
Yeah, maybe the, I don't know, the people that Shelter 2000, or isn't there another dog program where they adopt dogs? They bring them up from down south or something and by their trailer load and
Yes.
they put them up for adoption.
In the Medfield Animal Shelter, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe between those, because I think they do, well, I guess the dog walking, they have the animal shelter for the dogs that are at the shelter, so.
I think it would have to, I mean, I don't have a dog, but it would have to come from people if they wanted it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, because I just get worried about this creep, all of a sudden the town ends up assuming all
I don't
this
think
stuff.
the town should.
God,
That's probably
we
if
have
a group
another
of-
department now. we
Yes.
can build it, Yeah.
a group
Three
of
more
people want to
full-time
organize
employees.
and come up with some suggestions that
Yeah.
we'd entertain them, but
Yeah. But they're
as
not
long
at
as it
all.
was, not cost prohibitive. Now, what about the Park and Rec? Their regulations, they have authority to establish regulations,
Yes,
correct?
and the town meeting gave them, in the last couple of years, we enacted authority to enforce.
Yeah, because that's become an issue too, where they're starting to issue $100 tickets.
Well, that being said, the understanding at the time was that Park and Rec, or representatives, were going to meet with Chief Meany and myself to finalize the regulations, and that has never happened as far as either me or Chief Meany being involved, so.
Could you get together with Chief Meany and see if you could approach Park and Rec about
Sure.
doing something along those lines? Because I've heard a few tales, and, before it gets nasty, I think we need to try to address it. And there's two sides to every story. You hear
Right.
one side, then you hear the other side.
But I have to say, as a town attorney, it's one thing if you're a board or commission that has regulations and you have an agent, and they're charged with enforcement of the regulations, whether it's conservation or it's a
Right.
building commission, whatever. It's an entirely different story when you have individual board or committee members out enforcing.
Forcing, yeah.
There's some real problems with that,
Yeah.
particularly from a potential liability standpoint.
I guess that's about it. So, as I said, you have two things on the 25th.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you have,
Yep.
if any of you are around Thursday and you want to attend the
Mhm.
hearing, the grievance
Arbor
motion.
Day? Need to set what we're doing at our next couple of meetings. Our next meeting on the list here says it's supposed to be the Council of Aging to review respite care and rental policy, but they were here tonight. It also says here that tonight it would have been the Personnel Board and then the Assistant Town Administrator review personnel bylaw updates, so maybe we can flip
There,
those.
that's what's happening.
That's what's happening?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why Council of Aging was here tonight.
Yep, okay. Maybe it would help us if you could, every time that there's a change like that, you could send us out a new, and so that the annual calendar is like evergreen, so that as the changes happen, you can just maybe send us a copy of it, so that we're having a fresh, or an up-to-date version. On the 28th, we're supposed to have Senator Timothy, Garlic,
Good.
Dooley, and the State Hospital Committee for update on the hospital acquisition and development.
I think we were gonna try to fit into, we made the list of the goals that we didn't get to last year. Somewhere, it doesn't have to be next meeting, but somewhere we were gonna address them as well. And we had the list of the
Yeah.
ones we didn't get to.
Right, and we should,
Somewhere we need to plug them in.
yeah. Do you want to try to do that on the 28th or the 21st?
I don't care.
Do you have a preference?
Doesn't matter, I just want to caution against us over-scheduling ourselves again, where you trying to jam so much stuff in, and then I get cranky towards the end of the meeting when it's 10 o'clock, and we've got, 4 more appointments to go because we
Yeah.
tried to do 15 things on one night,
Well, so
and
then
that's what I
what-
get nervous about.
On the 21st, what we've got is the Personnel
Yep.
Board coming in. So does that
Sure.
make it sense to try to do the goals that night then, too?
Okay.
All right.
Because I would just get nervous about getting too many other things, and if we've got the state hospital committee coming in, you know what I mean, the end of the month, because that could, we could have some discussions on it, plus with the reps, you'd hate to get more things involved in other than those two things.
All right, so on the 28th, we'll just leave it with the reps. And then on November 4, we got the initial budget meeting, which is
Yeah.
probably a pretty full evening. Okay, and you wanted to do
Yeah, I do.
something
I have a
else?
very important motion. I would like to make a motion that we officially congratulate and wish Selectman Fisher a happy birthday. And maybe after the camera gets turned off, he can cut the cake.
Oh, excellent, thank you very much. Look at that, huh? Oh, from Brothers, huh?
From brothers. it's
Very
local.
nice. Look at that.
We got you a
Thing weighs-
cutter.
Look at that.
Need to preserve all the paper, that's going to the records of the meeting.
Yeah. Weighs a ton. Thank you. That's very nice, very thoughtful.
You have to
Thank you
crush a
very
piece of the cake and put it between two pieces of
much.
paper.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks so much. That's very, very nice.
As long as we don't have to sing a happy birthday.
You all say-
If I sang, the cameras would go off, but I have 8 plays, there's still 8 of us here, so.
Good.
8 PG, so we can adjourn, I guess.
Yep, excellent.
Good.
Nice
you.
idea.
Okay,
Richard.
thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Good night, everyone.